Right. So, hello and welcome to the Sendlio podcast. My name is Lewis.
And I'm Brandon.
And today we have Chanta Peak from AT&T, an aspiring motivational speaker, boss babe, personal connector. How you doing today, Chanta?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you very much for joining us. So let's start it off. Let's give a little bit of a background to everybody that's watching and listening. Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do?
Hi, I'm Chanta Peak. I am first at sales manager for AT&T. I cover Southern California. What I do a lot. I think I have like a jack of all trades, or I call it Jackie of all trades because I'm female. And so I basically provide public communications for first responders. I work with, the state, the local municipalities. In the time of fire, preparation for earthquake, and in California, especially, fire season's actually around the corner. Surprisingly or not, it's not even like summer yet, but to us here in May, we start to, get on top of our game and making sure that we have the communication that is needed for our first responder community. So I'm the boss of that in the area. I have about 10 to 11 people that report directly to me that cover different regions in Southern California. And their responsibility is to make sure that their agencies are, well taken care of, have the tools and resources that they need, and also, expand the message of FirstNet, which is a dedicated network for first responders that is hosted by AT&T. So that's, who I am, what I do, and I am currently located at Long Beach, California.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, so you got a lot going on. So how do you prepare for the day? Like what sort of regular habits do you have that sort of like keep you geared up and get your head in the right space?
So I love that because that's a great question. For me, first thing I do to prepare for the day is I actually prepare the night before. Okay. And yeah, I do. You have to. Being a working mom, and my husband and I, we have our 2-year-old son. It feels like we're new parents, but we're not really new. It's been 2 years, but you still have to prepare to make sure that you have things in order with his backpack. You have your running shoes in order. You have all the stuff that you need for the next morning to go fast. And I'm all about going fast because there's a lot of things that I have to do during the day, because I live this motto of like, Beyonce has 24 hours. I can do it too. So why not? And so when I wake up in the morning, I learned really quickly to prepare myself, to get myself ready. And then when I wake up, actually, YouTube actually knows what I want to listen to because its algorithm is spooky, and it wakes up to me for motivational videos. And so,
I'm same. I am so much into that. It's unbelievable.
It's funny because when I wake up, I have my AirPods next to me because it's already charged, ready to go, and I put it in my ear. And it's about 5 a.m. I wake up about 4:30 or 5 a.m. every day. And I listen to either it's like Tony Robbins, or it's, E.T., Eric Thomas, or Les Brown. It's like they're telling me to get up, do your dream, focus. And so I learned that, the first 20 minutes after you wake up makes such an impact of how your mood is that day. And I've actually tested it out and not doing it for a week, and I was miserable. I hated waking up.
Oh, man.
What is this? And so that's the first thing I do is I wake up, I listen to things that help me, center my emotions and make sure that I focus on the next task. And then I run, I go exercise, I train 3 times a week for about an hour. And then after that, I kind of pretty much, my mind is so focused and already awake that the next step is take care of my son. And my husband can wake up on his own. So, and then we move on to the next. So yeah, that's how I prepare for my day. I really have everything set up the night before with my calendar invites and just mentally, going over that before I go to bed. So, and then the next day I already remember, I already know what I'm doing, and I go full force. So that's how I do it.
That's really smart. I always I don't prepare the night before. And so I always pay the price the next morning. The emails come in and the calendar and all of that. So that's actually pretty smart. I might have to try it.
Yeah. I learned that from a professor on that. He said, when you're ready for a test, he says, try to read or go over things you need to do 30 minutes before you go to sleep. Because what happens is your body ends up trying to fix and solve the problem during your sleep. And so I was like, really? He goes, yeah, just try it. And so that's where I learned it from, where, because your mind's sleeping, but it's still working. It's still active. And so subconsciously, your mind is thinking about the next thing to do from the things that you read over the night before. So I was like, I'm game.
Oh,
so
see, I guess my mind's just focused on the British baking show.
I like the method though you're saying about getting up in the morning and listening to these motivational thoughts or speeches. I was in like a period in my life where I was kind of like in the dumps a little bit, and I remember like I felt so stupid, like like where you're trying to find like this like energy from somewhere, and then I remember just typing it into YouTube after not really like feeling I had any other resources, and I found it, and I found that exact method. The idea of waking up, first 10 minutes, getting yourself right there, getting your mind right, and I found that it really changed the course of my thought process when I started to do that on the regular. And like you said, it just kind of like when you don't do it, you don't feel focused anymore. Yeah. So on that thought, right, a lot of the things that I see that you speak about and, on Boss Babes and a lot of things that you're putting out there content wise, it has to do with a fixed versus the growth mindset. I really like to get into this. I really like to find out like, what does that mean to you? And give us some examples of each, if you could.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I love this stuff. I read all the time, and how I read through all of this is actually audiobooks. So it's like my saving grace. And one of the things that I catched on from a growth mindset to a fixed mindset from all the readings and the experience I have in my life is that when you have a fixed mindset, it's kind of more of the thought process that you inherently have something in your life. Let's say, for example, growing up smart, being told that you're smart. Oh, you're so smart. It's in your genetics. That's, who you are. That's, what you're going to be. You're so capable of doing that. And then what ends up happening is that, like, for me growing up, I learned the hard way, thinking that I was, smart and doing everything, because everyone kept telling me, oh, you read so young at a young age. And then when I finally realized that I wasn't smart enough because I hit like a hurdle because I wasn't doing math correctly and I didn't understand the problem solving, and I was like speaking multiple languages, and I was feeling like, well, I am smart. I can do this. I can totally do this. And I I started like going down this path when I was younger to feel like I couldn't, accomplish anything. So I brought like my self-esteem down. I feel like I wasn't capable of anything. And then my mom, she would tell me like, babe, like, why are you getting like, you're only like 9, like, why are you so upset? Getting all angry. And I said, because I'm smart. Everyone keeps telling me I'm smart in school and church and like everywhere. Like, cause I was like reading like pre-med books growing up. And I was learning the anatomy of frog. It's insane. But then I had issues with like doing math and couldn't figure out like multiplications and all the different stuff and fractions. And it's like people think, wow, you're doing fractions already at 9. Like, yes, I was, but I was getting frustrated. My mom's like, if you start to believe and get cocky like that, you're never going to grow. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you are never, ever going to be smarter than anyone else. You're always going to have to grow and learn, everything you do in your life. So you're always going to have to continuously, get better. And from that, I realized like, you can't be perfect. There's no such thing as you're ultimately like inherently smart. You just can't. It takes practice, it takes hard work. And after that, I just, learned that every mistake I made, the things I like, fell off on, it was because I wasn't ready for it yet. It was the fact that I didn't get enough practice into the craft that I was like working on at that moment. And so as you go into it, that's like the growth mindset. So the fixed mindset is when you're inherently thinking that you are deserving of something and that this is something that should be done set in stone. But then when you face, adversity, you brittle, you crumble, right? Growth mindset is being able to take away that, that falsies, I call it, that to where like you're always forever learning, you're a student of life. And because you do that, you're capable of, problem solving and looking forward and forward thinking. And that gets your mind really engaged and like continue to basically grow in everything that you do, from work, from pleasure, from your hobbies or so forth. And I find that it's such an important thing to have as a human being, because it just brings you more happiness, because you're always trying to find purpose in your life. And that's from growth. Right. So,
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So nice. Then, so essentially, like what I'm kind of getting is that like there's the mental aspect, and then there's the emotional, right? And so when you're young, right, you're trying to find your way through the world, and you have this intelligence, and you're trying to like figure out your way through society, and maybe that gives you some adversity. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of like adapt, things that you're doing, your mindset, everything like that. So how do you adapt that mindset to this intelligence to combine it with the emotional for growth specifically?
Ooh, so good. So good. So great question. The first thing that comes to mind is emotional intelligence.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of EI? That in itself is like a different term, like different thing, a different whole like podcast itself. But when you think about emotional intelligence in a nutshell, it's when you're able to take the experience of failure, right, and take a step back from being so young and that growth, realizing that you are in control of that emotion. Right? That your mom and dad's not going to save you from that F or that C or whatever grade you have, or that rejection you may have from people that you thought they were your friends, whatever it may be, right? Life hits you with a hard one. And then you take a step back and realize that, well, what can I do to do better? Right? What can I do to make sure that I'm happy? Right? And not care about being judged or what people perceive you as, because that's part of the fixed mindset, is that we worry too much about what people think of us and what we look at the outside. So we try to mold into something that, is, so that we can make sure that people are happy and or people pleasers, right? That's fixed because you're so narrow-minded in that focus. Whereas if you're a growth mindset, you end up taking yourself away from that judgmental, being so judgmental on yourself, focused on, developing that emotional feeling and taking a step back, saying, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to move on. I'm going to take that learning experience and put that in my file cabinet in my brain and store that in the moment, knowing that, yes, I did something wrong. This is the lessons I learned, and then move on. And then if it comes back again in that same situation, instead of like going back on the emotional stance of making the same mistake, you can go back and go, oh, I learned from that. Yeah, I don't want to do that. That was really bad. I did not feel good about that. That make me feel like it was me, right? And then move on to the next. And so I think that building that practice every day takes time. And so it's hard to really narrow it down for anyone, because everyone's experience is different. But as a child at that age, I had to practice. I had to learn. But ultimately, I know from a fact that would this be something that I would, regret doing down the line? Because I'm all about no regrets, but also do something that is not. I want to make sure that when I look in the mirror, is that something that I'm proud that I did, right? So I always thought about that at a very young age.
Right. So how does that pertain to now as a professional woman, right? Mm-hmm. And your professional life, and how does that kind of that mindset, how does that help you in business? How does that growth potential help you in business?
It grounds you a lot. It grounds you a lot because you see a totally different world in the corporate world. And I wish sometimes I can write a book or do some type of corporate diaries. But
actually, it's a great title. I like the title already.
Because there is so many emotion that goes into working with different personalities. And so what I'd be able to take that back from going to the professional world is that it's not all about me, especially if you're growing as a leader, because you want to make sure you hear people right first before you, answer back. So I'm all about, listen to understand, seek to understand. One of, Stephen Covey's, 7 principles of successful people is that you want to take back okay, what did I learn from this? What am I hearing, right? Is this person talking from a factual standpoint, or are they just, they're taking it personal, or they're really emotional about what they're saying and they're not making a clear decisive decision or just having a discussion. And so I'm able to listen much more now and be aware of people's emotion and read them better. And because I just know that, being in a working world and a corporate world, people, like I said, are in different stages of their life. So I've known to be more mature around a lot of people because I face a lot more adversity growing up. And that includes emotional adversity, having to deal with my own emotions, controlling how I was feeling, because, knowing I grew up poor, I knew like, okay, we don't have no food in the house, but I have to keep that composure at work, as a kid working at El Pollo Loco, right? Knowing that, working 3 jobs, work study, it's like you still had to put a smile on your face. Whereas, if I didn't have that emotional intelligence and that grit and that tenacity to move forward, that when I moved to the corporate world, I wouldn't be able to stand up tall. I would be crushed if my boss rejected me or someone told me no on a project. I would have been like, oh, they hate me.
Right.
No, they don't hate you. Your project doesn't meet the criteria. You just move on to the next. So I feel it's helped me a lot, is because I was able to determine what fits for me at a certain point, and what doesn't when I work with different colleagues. So,
yeah.
Nice.
Well, let me just add in one. Let me ask one more thing on the idea of leadership, right? Because I find that and we're talking about if somebody's born into like perfection, right? They have the perfect situation. They're fine. They got money. They're put in the right school. Everything's fine, right? You really don't have any room to go anywhere, right? Not as an individual, right? And so, and I find that leadership really comes from that adversity. Like, do you find that your leadership skills really wouldn't have been there had you had a perfect situation?
Because of the things I went through and the hard work and the drive that I had growing up, I have more appreciation for people who are failing right now, like emotionally failing in my organization. And I say that in a sense of they don't know how to cope with the rejection. They don't know how to handle the pressure. And I feel very fortunate as a leader, because one of the things that I do for my team, first thing I do with my team, no matter what team I have first, I always tell them, I want you to know that this is a circle of trust. This is literally the tribe where I care about you and I want you to fail. I want you to fail so much and come to me and say, what am I doing wrong? How can I get better? Because I am never going to judge you. I am never going to tell you that you're not capable of doing something, because I'm never going to give up on you, right? So that to me has helped me as a leader, because we don't have that safe environment anymore. And I call it psychological safety net that we don't provide for our people. And you see that in society, you see that so many everywhere, that people are so quick to judge, so quick to correct you or cancel you in this culture, right? That you don't take a step back and listen to why that person either made that decision or had that action that that they did, to really help them steer in a better path and live their path, either personally or from a workplace, with higher integrity and openness. And so that's, to me, that has helped me a lot. Say yes. If it was the other way around, no, I would say it would scare me, because I see that now with younger generations that I work with, that I'm mentoring and helping. I have a lot of candidates that come onto my team that come from a business degree program or business development program, that went through college and their first job is with me at AT&T, making $80,000 plus. And I'm just like, hello, there's some standards here, and some emotional requirements, and it's not there. And it's okay, because I'm here to help show them the way. Many, stick around with me are now future bosses and leaders, and some totally give up on me because they give up on themselves. So
that's great.
Right. So can you tell us a little bit about your work with the First Responder Network Authority?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes down to it, if there was a fire or an earthquake or any time of disaster, and a agency reaches out to me, I actually get the first call, either from, my peers at the state level, or connecting with emergency centers down here in LA and saying, hey, we have, LA County or San Bernardino County or different counties looking for help with the deployable. Because there's times when powers are down, powers are out, and maybe many people don't know, but a lot of the generators that power up your grid or the cell towers are only about 2 hours long. And so people need, because of city measurements, requirements, and things like that, we can't have, ongoing power on that because of health issues and, reasons behind that. Just because the public community does not want anything bigger than 2 hour long generators there for you, right? Because it's filled up with gas and stuff, and you don't have a gas tank sitting at every cell tower. And so we focus on the need of the business in the sense of who's in need. First responders get first dibs on everything because they save lives. They make sure that our community is up and running, and also ensure that people, if there are time of disasters, that they're the first to get communicated to. So I work with deployables. We have what's called cells on wheels that we deploy out to these remote areas. I myself was a part of the efforts up in Bakersfield area, north of Bakersfield. And it was I think I got the call at 3:00 on a Saturday. And we were ready to, give my son a snack and, playtime. And I was told we need to get you up here or someone up here, because I also have, a case full of devices that are built for FirstNet. So the agency is not on FirstNet yet. I have a case that's meant to be used. So it's a case of 22 devices on the FirstNet network. And it's a big 50-pound case that, is portable. So I got the call. I told my husband, I got to go. And he says, how long is the drive? It's 6 hours. And so got up, got my emergency backpack on. So I'm trained to have to do that more than you realize from a cell phone company, right? So I picked it up and I drove, and it's in, I think, 4 hours into the drive, I was told the wrong address. So I had to I was up in the mountains, and I had to backtrack backwards down the mountain. And my poor husband was trying to get a hold of me, but there's no cell signal in the mountains itself. It's so high that there was no cell signal. But long story short, I had to get a hotel that night, was able to make it the next morning. And, we were able to get the devices to the first responders there. So that's that's part of what I do with FirstNet Authority. We also make sure to let other agencies know about our progress that we're doing with build outs and cell towers, and also different, use cases that are out there with hurricanes and the floods that's happening across the nation. So, it's really about saying, hey, we're just not a cell phone company. We're just trying to sell you on different, wireless products. We're really here to tell you that there is a dedicated solution, dedicated network for you, so that in time of emergency that you have a way to connect with other agencies. So because we all normal consumers are on a commercial network. So when you're at a Beyonce concert, I love Beyonce, I keep saying her name. As you can see, that your phone is not bogged down, right? You can never get a text message or a post out because everyone's on the network. So for FirstNet, you're not on that network. You are on a separate network, and you're able to connect with people, and that's important in the time of emergency. So
nice. I'm imagining the way you described when you have to get ready to go, that you're just putting on the bat suit, hopping in the Batmobile.
Yeah,
kind of sounds like. So I guess you have a lot of people coordinated, in this effort, a lot of teams involved, and how do you encourage everyone to work together? And more importantly, since this is all about communication, right? You're setting up the ability for first responders to communicate. How do you guys communicate effectively? And I mean, at all, when the networks are down and stuff like that.
So we actually are when the networks are down and stuff, we're actually very grateful because we do have like, satellite phones at our hands. So you can, if anyone knows my husband, he loves all the gadgets that I get at home. He's like, what else you get next? And I'm like, can't touch that.
Spy gear.
Spy gear.
He's like Batman. That woman.
That woman. And so we also, work via WebEx chat. We have, because usually when the sales towers are down, the internet's usually still back up.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, we try to communicate as much as, as quickly as possible via, chat on the internet, on our basically using Wi-Fi. But, if anything ends up happening that we can't, we do have a radio handset. I literally have an LMR radio that I use to be able to connect with my peers across the nation.
Nice. So lots of failover there.
Yeah. My whole closet is like literally, yes, you can say it's like a Batwoman cave. So my husband's like, can we put this in like a section of the garage and build something for this? I go, yes.
I mean, it sounds cool.
It does sound cool.
It's pretty cool.
Like I got all this gear and I just take off to the mountains at a moment's notice.
Yes.
It's like, that's pretty awesome.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's also, I think like I said, I get there and I see all the great work that a lot of these men and women are doing, just putting their lives on the line, just, to making sure that we're safe out here with at our homes and with our families. So I'm very grateful to be part of that process and being part of a team, being able to lead a team in that effort. So
I think it's like a lot of people don't really realize, because we're so used to things being so easy for us, what it takes to actually make communication happen on such a wide scale.
Yes.
And so it's like, you run into all kinds of problems, and I don't even know how to frame this about like successes and failures, but in this situation, right, when you're doing emergency, responses, how do you define success in those situations? What is success, or what is accomplishing what your goals? I understand there's certain check marks, but break that for that a little bit.
So in time of emergency, what defines success to us? Ultimately, I know it sounds like very grim, but saving lives is important to us, and because that is the number one priority for our clients and our customers who are out there to take care of first responders. Is, are they getting the right solution that they need for when they need to make contact with other agencies or with people who they're trying to rescue? And so, for me, success looks like is getting in front of the customer, understanding what the needs are, from, future proofing things for their infrastructure, to understanding what the endpoints are when it comes to the handheld device, to the cradle points, to whatever they need, so that it all circles back to communicating effectively. And so to me, if that all, becomes streamlined and everything's smooth and seamless during the deployment that we do, when we roll out the devices, when we do the testing on the cradle points, when we do the testing on the radios, and they are getting the coverage that they need in the area that they need it the most, then to me that's success. Because we want to, it's not just, signing up a cell phone, here you go, move on. It's really making sure that they have the cell phone coverage they need and the technology and the software to back it up.
All right. Could you give us an example of, I know a lot of this stuff is very, security oriented, so you can't necessarily go into everything, but can you give us an example of when things got difficult for you and you were able to like persevere? Maybe give us a nice story.
Yes. We actually had a situation where it was during the Black Lives Matter movement. And, it was definitely difficult at that time for me personally. I'll be frank, because I am a woman of color. And, there's things I stand for when it comes to, ensuring that we have, equal opportunity and rights for all, and having to stand in, a building full of officers, right, who also want to serve and protect, because in LA, we're very multicultural and diverse. But at the same time, because of the peace protests and everything that's happening, there's congestion. And we were starting to build something out for the department, that department itself. And so it got to the point where everything got bogged down. Everything was not working. We were able to download anything. It was during time of emergency because we had to make sure officers were taken care of making sure that the buildings were safe, the people who were working in the buildings were safe, people who were protesting were safe, and they were depending on our communication. So we were able to immediately work with all of our network teams and everybody to collaborate and, think outside the box of what can we do to amplify, the signals that we need, what was the issue that we were having. And we were able to, find out that we had different, resources available to us from the equipments that we had on hand, along with the able-bodied, coworkers that I had were able to drive across, cities to make it happen. So, that was in a sense a success because I think I was there 6 o'clock in the morning that day, and I didn't leave till like 11 o'clock at night that night. Wow. And we were able to get it done. Mm-hmm.
Having all of these issues surrounding you and kind of geared at a certain profession, yet you're coming from a background that has felt the expression of what the protesters are actually really going after. I mean, did you find did it make it hard for you to kind of like stand shoulder to shoulder, in a sense? Because, I mean, you're helping out the people that are being protested against. Did that make it difficult for you?
I would say at first it was, you're at that, like I said, that now I've entered an emotional state where I had to take a step back and look at where I am in that moment of time. And I'm going to say no, because I knew what I was doing was for the long game.
Right.
And I knew what I was doing was to protect the community at the end of the day. So actions by a few does not determine actions of many. So I knew many of the officers in the building. I knew what they stand for. I knew, the community in itself, overall in LA, and the officers in LA and Orange County, all of Southern California. And I knew what they stand for. So I work with them every day. So to me, no, it wasn't difficult. It was actually beautiful to see young people actually, I feel like I'm still young too. But,
we're all young.
All young. Is that people were speaking out and they were, fighting for the equality that we needed. And so that it's something that we had to hear as a country. And so standing on the side I was, it wasn't difficult because I knew that at the end of the day, it was something that had to be done for myself in my own job. But also it's part of the circle of life where we have to go through that kind of difficult path to make sure that we fight for what our beliefs are.
Nice. So I guess talking about the long game, right?
Yeah.
So like, what do you see as far as like the future? What kind of future technologies do you think are going to affect your field? And is there anything cool that you're excited to see happen?
Yes, I'm actually very excited. AT&T has, I think, 3 things top of mind that's coming out that I actually can speak publicly about, which is FirstNet push to talk. And that in itself, it's like more, people think of like a walkie-talkie. You go beep, 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 beep. Well, it's pretty much the same direct way of using the device. However, the difference is that it's built on a separate core network, right? Whereas before it was like an over-the-top type of application, which means that you download the app and it works over the data, and and it's all depending, and it runs the interface on the app itself, right? Whereas FirstNet push to talk, it runs through the network. So we actually have 6 different grids all over the United States, and we're building more to actually work with the technology itself, so it's not over the top. So because usually when it's over the top, they're usually delayed with software, there's issues. And for here, it's actually rated mission critical. And so we're actually been test piloting it out the last year or so. Many agencies are looking for that because it works really well with land mobile radio, which is LMR, and integrates really well with the interface because of the fact that it can connect not just the towers, but also the mobile radios itself. So that's one. Second is what we call Z-Access. And Z-Access is actually really cool. I can't wait for me to get a demo on it because it's in a technology where we are able to locate an employee or personnel on the Z-Axis up and down buildings, right? Okay. And so, for example, if you're a firefighter and you're in charge of being aware on radio where each firefighter are located in the building, it's really hard sometimes because you don't have a way to measure it based on the current GPS ways of what we do things. So Z-Axis allows you to go up and down buildings and throughout the buildings using band 14, which is the spectrum, which what FirstNet Authority is, and penetrate the buildings and able to find them. So I'm really excited about that because I can see it be like, it shows like a simulation where it's like a game where people are running back and forth down the buildings, but it's all fun and everything. But at the end of the day, it actually could save a lot of lives.
That's one for the Bat Cave right there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, we call it HPUE, which is high power user endpoints. And it basically allows you to have long range data, long range connection. And it basically is like, for example, like if you're going skiing, let's say Mammoth is like an example, we're driving and there's not a connection. Knowingly know if I drive a mile out, there's going to be no connection. It's going to be a dead zone. What HPUE does is that it actually amplifies that last mile of connection that you have from where you are to extend out further. So it's
like an access point in your house, basically.
Correct. Yeah. Been made for rural areas. And so for those who are out like different like places where you're out maybe at a ranch or out like, camping or doing a campsite or so, you can see that there's many people like, rangers that can benefit from having HPUE because of the ability to extend their range. Because if they're doing like search and rescue and they know that at this point, we don't have signal, well, we can always, I call it daisy chain it, where we can continue to amplify it by having another router in place. And so the HPUE can feed off the router that you have, from that cradle point further on. So it's a pretty cool technology. We're the only one that have that at FirstNet at AT&T. So we're looking forward to, getting that in front of our first responders so that we can continue on, scaling up and providing additional technology.
Dude, that's awesome.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So what about you? Like where are you headed over the next like 5-10 years? What are we expecting from Chanta?
Well, for me, I love that. I always tell my team, like, you should always change it up every 3 years. Everything that you're doing in your career, your goals, you always got to keep going and moving forward and elevating yourself. So I hope to grow my YouTube channel that I have. I actually started back in December, went from like 0 subscribers to now close to 300 in the last 2 months. So pretty stoked about that. There I, talk about like living your best life. I love to share like practices of fashion, beauty, all the stuff that makes me who I am, but also the main reason of putting the message out there, not just for women, but also men, to really take care of themselves, right? To really take time for self-love, self-care, because if you are trying to, provide for your family and provide for those you love with an empty cup, and you're not filling that cup up with self-love and self-care, you're not going to be able to do it. And so I just want, because you don't have the energy to do it. So that in itself is my channel, along with, growing my career as an aspiring motivational speaker. And that's, as mentioned before, I have a podcast called the Boss Babe series, where I talk about personal life experiences and also work with, others that share their life stories on how they be able to become a boss themselves. So, at the end of the day, I love my career, the things I'm doing here, but the next 5-10 years, I hope to inspire to motivate others to live their best life every day, along with, just, living my best life and doing what I love. So that's what I see myself doing.
Nice.
All right. So So this question will be just kind of like out of the box, I guess.
Okay.
Right? So,
Okay.
it's like kind of like a last one. We'll throw something out. So, all right, let's set it.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
All right. So, all right. It's a zombie apocalypse.
Oh gosh. I hate
All right.
zombies.
Well,
Okay,
you're kind of in zombie apocalypse mode with your job with the first responder stuff. So it kind of fits, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So
we would be calling you in a zombie apocalypse.
exactly. All right. So what 3 people, living or dead, would you want on your team? All right. 3 people, living or dead.
Gosh. Living or dead. If I don't say my husband, he's going to get mad, but I can't have him on my team, unfortunately. Sorry.
Don't worry. We won't say anything to him. Yeah.
I would say living or 3 people, not
3
including
people.
me, right? 3 people.
Teammates.
I don't know. I'm all about like living through experiences and finding people who's been there, right? Or who survive, who's that survival mode. John McClane,
Okay.
right? From Die Hard.
Okay.
Not Bruce Willis. And also, let me think here. Laura Croft from Tomb Raider. I love her. I'm all action, fiction people here. And then let me see. And one more person. Oh, geez. Gosh, I'm gonna say The Rock.
Yeah.
All right.
The Rock. Yeah, because he's one of the gentlemen I listen to every morning. But also I see him getting really positive about this. Like, yeah, we got like 10 more zombies today. You're like, yes, we did.
As he's like crushing your head with his elbow.
Hey, he was great in Jumanji.
Yeah, so I think those are the 3 I would have. Because
So wait a minute, John McClane, right? Because I could see that because like you could survive with no shoes and only on cigarettes for an entire Christmas weekend, right? That's what he did, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could see that surviving a apocalypse. So give me the Tomb Raider, like give me
Laura
about
Croft.
What do you think about her? Like what about her would you want in there?
I always need a female on the team.
Okay.
That's why I feel like a diversity there, 50-50. But no, I think she also has out of box thinking, the way she's able to MacGyver things, with the tools that she has. So I like that about her. Also, she's like gritty. Like she doesn't mind getting like dirty and like figuring out ways to survive. And I love that about her because it's like a sense of woman empowerment. And I love to have someone very similar to my personality on the same at the same level of surviving. And also I know she also doesn't judge and she's not catty like that. So I like being around women like that. It's like, okay, she's not really worried. So cool. Let's go and kill some zombies. So and then The Rock, because I feel that I don't know if you guys saw this, but in one of his Instagram posts, he ripped his gate open.
Oh, I saw that.
Okay.
Where he was like aggro, like going crazy.
Because he was going to miss his appointment or his being on set. And he hates missing his appointments, which I hate missing my appointments too. And so I can understand his pain. So I know he's definitely goal oriented and he's driven, and I don't mind having muscle on the team. So it's actually good
work on his anger management a little bit.
Yeah. I was like, okay. So
this fish is not prepared correctly. Just
go be angry at the zombie.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. Well, Chanta, thanks for joining us today. How can people find out more about you? Do you want to drop some social media, some web links out there?
Absolutely. So one ways people can find out who I am and what I'm about is you can visit my website, which is chantapeak.com. It has everything from like my YouTube videos, my Instagram page, my Boss Babe series podcast. It's kind of like my, digital autobiography platform, right? So people want to know more about me and my stories, and they can come visit me there because I love to also visitors and people commenting and directly visiting and sharing their stories with me. So that's one way to do that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Awesome. Well, we appreciate everybody for tuning in, and you can find all of our episodes at sendlio.com or wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Chanta.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye, guys.